I know I forgot. We will call the business meeting to order. I'm going to ask that Commissioner Evans lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And let me just say for those, as you all have known, that I have sat down on occasion for the Pledge of Allegiance. I will be sitting down this time to honor Heather Heyer, who was killed in Charlottesville. So I want you to know that I'm honoring her by sitting down. So Commissioner Evans, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. And just a moment of silence for those in Charlottesville and all around who's protesting, and for Heather Heyer. Just a moment of silence, please. Thank you very much. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of the July 27th business meeting?
So moved.
August 8th special meeting, August 10th special meeting, and August 22nd special meeting.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll go to the speakers list. We have those speakers who are speaking specifically on an agenda item, and we have those who are speaking, who are addressing us, but not speaking on a agenda item. And so, since there are 5, we will hear all of those speakers at this time. The first speaker is Aaron Thompson. Mr. Thompson, are you here?
He has decided not to speak this evening.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Eagle?
Good evening, Superintendent Dean Williams. You know why we're here. We came by to say to you that we need to schedule a 2-hour meeting, and we need to do it by next Thursday, the 31st, right across the parking lot, 2-minute walk to Central Church of Christ. And you know how to contact us. I signed up to speak to Resolution 2017-18-141, which is a resolution that allows East High School, which is an EPO, an Education Partnership Organization, to continue a contract with Encompass Resources for Learning Incorporated. We don't understand this kind of thing. U of R was hired as an EPO because supposedly they bring special knowledge, special skills in terms of helping to address the issues at East High School. Yet they are subcontracting with some organization that doesn't appear to be really connected to our community, not where the majority of our students are concerned. It's located at 275 Pinnacle Road, and I looked at the chief officers, the chief executive officer, the chief educational initiatives officer, and all the chiefs. And based on their photos and their bios and presumably their class, socioeconomic class, they're not really grounded in terms of understanding the history and the culture that the majority of our students come out of. And so we don't understand. It doesn't go along with the rhetoric that we're hearing about aggressively pursuing racial justice agendas and so forth. That's the rhetoric we're hearing in the community, but this kind of thing doesn't go along with that. It seems to be counterintuitive. So we're concerned about that kind of thing. We want to talk to you about that, but other issues also related specifically to individual, institutional, and structural racism. So we want to talk to you about that. You've seen our communications. So this resolution that I'm mentioning, and many others, if you look at the agenda for tonight, you'll see that they're giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars to all kinds of organizations Baton Street, even the Rochester Police Department. So when you look at this stuff, it begins to become clear why many people in the community say that the Rochester City School District is a cash cow, that everybody sort of cashes in on the whatever, what is it, $1 billion budget now? And so we don't understand this kind of stuff, especially when you get the kind of results that we keep getting for decades. And so those are some of the issues that we want to speak with you about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eagle. The next speaker is Shirley Thompson.
Good evening, Commissioners and Superintendent. One of the resolutions you're scheduled to vote on tonight would terminate Lauda Thompson, my daughter-in-law's probation as an assistant principal. Now, I want you to know that I did not observe Lauda in the classroom when she was a teacher, and I haven't witnessed her performance as an administrator. However, I know her as an intelligent, well-trained, highly ethical professional, a Latina who grew up in the city of Rochester and overcame challenges to work her way through our city school district educational system. Lauda Thompson is one of our own. She's a product of the city school district. Her life experiences mirror those challenges and obstacles which many of today's city school district students still go through and struggle with daily. The life experiences she has in common with our students have helped her to relate to, empathize with, and teach our students not only how to navigate through the textbooks, but through life successfully. Lauda understands our diverse community's myriad cultures, and she's devoted 16 years to being the best teacher, mentor teacher, and administrator she can be in order to help our students actualize their potential. So why is she on the verge of having her reputation tarnished and her future as an administrator threatened? Neither she nor I nor anyone who knows her have been able to answer that question, which I hope you have all been asking or will ask yourselves. When I served on the Board of Ed, I often spoke of the need for having processes, procedures, and systems in place that would help the superintendent and board question and recognize if business was being conducted in ways that served our students. One of the best ways I can think of achieving that is to, number one, have two-way channels of communications. Information that flows to you about what's working and what isn't, and information that flows from you. And number two, if someone, anyone, cannot use the official means of letting the superintendent and board know about problems, there need to be other ways of alerting you of that. I'm alerting you tonight. Our district and community have a history of losing our successful, young, college-educated graduates to other cities and states. Lauda Thompson is one who returned to give back to our community for the past 16 years as a teacher and most recently an administrator. I don't know what went wrong at school number 12 for an educator who had been successful in her career prior to that time, yet we find ourselves here tonight with her on the verge of termination. If a student was suspended or expelled from school, would you give that your stamp of approval without ample evidence, explanation, and documentation to support such strong disciplinary action? I implore you to look further into this situation, consider the commitment and dedication given by Lauda, and ask, is this action to terminate fair and justified? One of our own who has given so much deserves that consideration and respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Jim Greco.
Good evening. My name is Jim Greco. I put 2 children through the district, and I've been a community activist for quite some time. I have questions about reports, superintendent reports. I need to know that they're real. I need to know they're substantial. I need to know that the intent, the effort, was more than purposeful, more than sincere. It's directed accurately. I went to a meeting by this group of people whose concern was the hiring of Black, Hispanic teachers in the district and the need for that, the priority of that. And the thing that most impressed me was, I said to myself, yeah, I was at this meeting 20 years ago. It's the same meeting, with the same perspective, from the same people, even though the faces are different. I saw no change. We have people, 20 years, 12 years, 12 years, 8 years. And what do we get? The worst performing district in the state in Bohan Vargas. We're getting nowhere with that kind of thinking. We have to change the thinking. We have to understand what it really means to create fundamental change. What does it really mean to get from here to there? It's about understanding what the goal is all about. It's about understanding what progress is all about. A man once said, you stick a knife into me for 6 inches, and then you pull it out 3 inches, and you call that progress. It's not progress. But that's how you see progress here in the district. It's not real. And if you want to know what it takes to have real progress, you have the people to talk to, but you don't. You want to give them an hour's worth of your time. What's the intent of that? What's the purpose of that? It's only one intent, one purpose, appeasement. It's not about collaboration. It's not about partnership. It's not establishing something real that will cause real, effective, fundamental change in this district. You're in the same place that everybody else has been. You need to change that. Can you give me a definition of racial justice? Understand this. I didn't say will you. I said can you. And I'm going to give you the answer. You can't. Because you get that answer from people who've suffered the consequences of racial injustice. And if you don't include those people, what are you doing? Where do you think you're going to go? What effective change can you have? Children don't have time. We can't hear about, well, we're moving the needle a little bit. How many kids along the way do we lose while you're moving the needle and patting yourself on the back? I don't believe any report you're going to give me because it's lacking the perspective that you need to have to create real change. You're ignoring these people. You don't give them an hour. You put them at the table. You make them partners. They have the experience. They have the knowledge. They have the dedication. And more than anything else, they have been fighting for racial justice continually, and they're not going to stop. We are not going to stop. And if we have to, we'll stop all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Greco. Dr. Doris Meadows.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Doris Meadows, and I am addressing you as a community activist and a city resident of the 19th Ward for 41 years. I'm also a parent of 2 district graduates, and I was a social studies and humanities teacher for 17 and a half years in the district. I wish to call your attention to the history of reform in our district. I arrived in one of the first waves of reform in 1984, and I volunteered and participated in many worthy initiatives, including the district's civic values policy. Tonight, as you begin further efforts towards improvement, I wish to call your attention to the Rochester City School District Civic Values Policy, which was a grassroots initiative developed over several years by diverse volunteers representing many constituencies in the district and in the community. The values policy was adopted by the board in the 1990s, and it was hoped that it would be a foundation for school and community governance. My hope is that the board would reaffirm this policy as you embark on another round of reforms. I'm grateful that Superintendent Barbara Dean Williams has emphasized the importance of values at her listening sessions, and I hope that the board will affirm these important values which protect both the democratic society and the integrity of the individual in the district. They consist of values that strengthen and protect the fabric and cohesiveness of a democratic society, including justice, equality, legitimate authority, respect for the rule of law, participation, obligation to the public good, respect for others, kindness, caring, cooperation, reasoned discourse, and advocacy. The values that strengthen and protect the integrity of the individual in a democratic society include due process, personal freedom, privacy, patriotism, giving your best effort, responsibility for oneself, respect for self, honesty, imagination, inquiry, diversity, and personal empowerment. I appreciate your consideration. I brought the poster from the original adoption of the values policy, and it looked like this, red, white, and blue. There was a subsequent poster made after I left, and I would caution you about using that one because there were some grammatical and spelling errors which were pointed out to me when I was substituting in a class in the district. And the students were, we have great students, and they saw the errors, but I thought it kind of undermined the policy. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Dr. Meadows. Appreciate all the speakers who came out and spoke. This is a part of the democratic process. Sometimes we may not like what is said, but it is a part of the democratic process, and it is the right of people who live in the community to express those opinions. So again, thank you for your comments. The next step is the superintendent's report. Can we get Dr. Nelms to provide us with his report?
Good evening, Commissioners, community. I'm here to provide a brief report on an update for East. And like the Superintendent Williams, we are getting ready for the opening of school, checking our master schedules, and making sure that kids are ready to start the school year. Just to remind our students at East that there are several orientations that will happen next week, and also the following for parents and community. We will encourage them to check their newsletter and the website for those updates and information. This week, the New York State assessments were released, and we're still digging through those data to track our progress, but the next few slides just indicate where we are, how we performed in ALA's grades 6 through 8, and also by grade level. It was interesting to hear the Commissioner talk about the incremental growth throughout the state. And for ELA, there's only about a 1.9% growth throughout the statewide on those assessments. And for math, the growth was around 1.1%. So it appears that throughout the state, the results were pretty flat. And I'm interested in hearing from the Commissioner and her team around why that occurred and how the curriculum and instruction outline just has such a flat rate across the state, even within the suburban and rural peers as well. The last data slide I have here is science. We're seeing quite a push in science with our students. We have some incredible partnerships with the University of Rochester and some local agencies to bring STEM to life at the school. You'll see robotics added this year in our school for grades 6 through 8, and also an emphasis on girls who code as an opportunity for our young ladies to get involved in the engineering fields. And we'll have more updates on that in the future. Some of our academic initiatives for this current year, I think those of you who have heard me speak several times around the instructional plan, the 5-year plan. We are in year 3. Year 3 focuses on deliberate practice. So we started years 1 and 2 looking at curriculum and understanding the intentionality of our learning targets. We're now in year 3 with deliberate practice, and you'll see a deeper dive in classroom instruction. We created a pretty comprehensive Google Drive where we code and tag what we see academically so we can find trends and data around teacher talk, student engagement, emphasis on literacy, so we can have ongoing dialogues around what actually matters in the classroom. How are you getting the curriculum into the hands and minds of our students? So deliberate practice becomes and has been a huge emphasis for us. You'll also see an emphasis on our cohort town hall meetings, which means that the students coming together looking at common problems of practice and using some self-discovery around enhancing and improving their academic and social emotional lives. I spoke to the 7th grade immersion project briefly, but this is a real opportunity for us to get a real hands-on experience at East. When these projects begin, we'll make sure that the school board and our community are aware of them, to come and observe and participate. We are really focused on these next generation science standards. This is the wave of the future for New York State and nationally. We have to get our students to think critically about science, and how it relates to the literacy and numeracy work that we're doing throughout the state. Also for our parents, we are going to redeploy the Let's Talk app. We did it all last year. We're going to expand that to ensure that parents, it's a two-way communication between parents and students in the school. This is a website and a platform that's also used on a mobile app. It gives push notifications for events, but it's really an opportunity for people to submit suggestions anonymously or with their name. Each administrator has the app on their phone, and so as information is shared with us, we respond within 24 hours to that. Sometimes the information is from teachers themselves around some of the critical needs that we have, and we respond. But you'll see a list of those things on Let's Talk, and I encourage our community to once again download the app and to re-engage. And last but certainly not least, one of the most important factors we're going to implement this year is a Green Pass badge visitor system. This system is critical for us because we had in the past a number of incidents that were inappropriate between adults and students. And also, it's really difficult to determine if we are allowing people who are on the sex offender registry in our schools or not when we have students in session. So we're trying to streamline a process that alerts us to who's coming in the building, who's engaging with our students, and then where they headed when they enter the building. This is going to take some time. We know that for some parents, if we don't communicate it well, it will seem very intrusive. But this is a system that implemented in a different district, and also it's one that's used throughout Monroe County schools. And this video gives a brief overview of what it is, how it works, and we're going to work with parents and community members to make sure that it's seen as something that's beneficial, not something that's intrusive.
Hello, my name is Larry White, and I am the lead safety officer at East High School. In today's world, trespassers and individuals with malicious intent are a constant and rising threat to the educational institutions around the world. Therefore, the administration at East High School has employed a new visitor management system called Green Pass. It is a system designed to offer an instant background check for visitors who do not already have a district-issued ID badge. Now, when any visitor arrives at East High School, they will be asked the nature of their visit and must show their driving license or government ID to the security officer at the main entrance. Starting in the summer of 2017, at exit 28, the security officer will take the individual ID and place it in a scanner where the individual information is checked through a national database for any possible conflict that would jeopardize the safety of East High School community. The database scans government exclusion lists and terror watch lists, as well as checks each visitor's potential sex offender status. Once the background check is completed and the visitor status is approved for entry, a temporary ID badge is printed with the individual picture on it and then presented to that individual for entry. Green Pass security technology also allows management to track where guests, vendors, and contractors are at all times. This way, limited access can be permitted and properly enforced. At East High School, students, staff safety is paramount to the success of our learning community. Thank you for your cooperation and understanding. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact East High School at 288-3130 or visit our school website at www.rcsdk12.org/east. Thank you, and go East.
So we understand that this is going to be a transition.
Let me just say, I just want to say that's a great video, and I like it because it is somebody from the community who people can relate to. So that I like the fact that he's the one that did the video. So I wanted to just.
Since comments are being made, I'm going to say I'm absolutely opposed to this. I mean, this is. I could get triggered on that. My husband, everyone in my family could get triggered on that. That's very problematic.
I don't know what the triggers would be, so.
Well, it wouldn't be sex offense. I don't mind you having the sex offender one, but in terms of, I mean, I have an FBI file from past activism. I've been arrested in Washington DC multiple times. So I would be triggered. And so who is the judge then?
So I'll be clear. So it doesn't trigger felonies, misdemeanors, arrests. It triggers those who are on the watch list for terrorists, which you wouldn't be in that case.
Are you sure?
Hopefully. I don't know if I don't know. I mean,
Do you know how many people are on the no-fly list that are absolutely, have absolutely no business being on a watch list? I mean, and especially if we get into people with Arabic names, and, I mean, there's all kinds of literature out there about false identification and harassment.
The commission, let me just say, Commissioner Adams, is this a conversation that you can go into more detail with Superintendent Nelms at another time? To really delve into it? Because you can't delve into it right here. So, and there may be some information that they're not aware of that you can contribute to. So I think that probably you need to meet with the team there and talk more about it. Okay? All right, thank you.
And I think part of Commissioner, and part of that is we are aware this is going to be a transition, that it will take a lot of communication, clarity, and some bumps, but it's not something that day one parents are going to be turned away, communities will be turned away. We hope by the end of the year that it changes the culture of those who are coming in the building. And my biggest concern, based on our experience at East, has been the number of people who have done things inappropriate towards students. And sometimes they're internal people, sometimes they're external, and we want to make sure that we help to minimize that to the extent practical. We can talk about that in further detail in the future. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Doctor?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Powell?
Thank you. I've been to a number of places where identification systems have been used. Sometimes you have to submit the names in advance, like even going to New York State Department of Education. You have to submit your name before the day of the meeting, and they'll have a badge waiting for you. And I have no idea what they do in terms of background checks. But my question is, in each of those cases where there's some kind of mechanism with a badge system, they've used a paper where an ink comes through the paper after a certain number of hours, so that by the time 24 hours has elapsed, it's obvious to anyone looking at the badge that it's not valid anymore. Is this a function of the badge system? So that people would have to check in the security every day if they came every day?
Yep, so the badge is date stamped, and it puts a location where you're headed and a picture of the individual. So it's clearly written in terms of where you're headed. So it would say the date, the time that you entered, and where you're headed. And again, I use this for, I think, 2 years in a different district. And after the first few times, it was pretty, and I know that communities are different in nature, but it wasn't something that was problematic. In fact, I think the most important situation I had is when I had a gentleman pick up his girlfriend's child, and the girlfriend didn't know he was in the sex offender registry. And the guy had lived with them for quite some time. And so it was an opportunity for those parents to be educated too around those children. So there's a lot of different implications here, but it's not meant to be created a police state. It's not meant to turn away community. And actually, it's a way to make sure we keep our kids safe.
And I wasn't going down the same road that Commissioner Adams was. I'm just asking the question because putting the location and the date on a badge doesn't mean anyone's going to take a close look at it. But when red lines raise up and obliterate the badge, that's pretty obvious to anyone that the badge that person is carrying is a day old.
I can look into that. I'm not certain about
Thank you.
the system. Yeah.
Any other questions? Commissioner Homa?
Yeah, just a question about where this came from. Like, were there a lot of incidences that the staff said, hey, we really need to be checking our visitors more carefully? Just give a little backstory about it.
There definitely have instances where there's been investigations with HCI around some employees. There's also been students who self-report harm for people from the community who are after them. It also allows parents to put an alert. If they say, I don't want these individuals on my child, they can't pick them up. So it allows us to really honor and and keep the kids protected when they get to school. And we know that there have been times where some students have reported they felt uncomfortable with certain people coming up to school and picking them up, and the school doesn't know. When you dump, the school and it's 1,400 kids leaving the school at once, it's really difficult to determine who's out there for those students, unless they tell you. And so we're trying to really tighten security on campus to make sure to protect those kids. But I would say yes, it has come from students who have said they felt unsafe with some things happening in the community. Some parents have asked us to support their kids in school and protect them from certain people, sometimes family members, and also make sure that we make it heighten that sense of security for the adults in the building too, to make sure we're taking it seriously.
Right, so really depending on how you spread the word and use it, it can be seen as an instrument of kind of over-authoritarianism or enabling the community to feel safer. So the communication is super important.
That's
Yeah.
key. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Superintendent Dean Williams, your report, please.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to say that it's been a very busy month, many activities occurring to fully prepare children, for children and staff and families, as Dr. Nelms indicated. Operationally, our facilities, transportation, information technology, food service, and security teams have been working hard to prepare for the opening of school. We've successfully completed 18 capital improvement projects, a few of those last ones winding down. Our food service menus are completed and the teams are fully staffed at this time. And we've successfully implemented the first phase of our Smart Bond program. And the FMP is moving along for 17, 16, 15, Monroe, and Edison. It's interesting. I want to thank Deli Akani, Maria Melodupre, Lori Baldwin, Tom Kesa, and Mike Schmidt for the excellent work that they've been doing. I want to take a moment to tell you about our 5-day leadership summit this year, which for the first time was fully aligned with our core values of equity, relational capacity, innovation, coherence, and accountability. And it was inclusive of students and parents, teacher leaders, community partners, and our full leadership staff. It was extremely exciting to spend 5 full days at the Roberts campus and to learn together, to have some difficult and challenging dialogues and conversations, but to walk away with a very solid and sound foundation intact. I want to thank Sylvia Cooksey and Dr. Kendra March and their entire team for their organizational magic. This 5-day event featured numerous keynote speakers, and I appreciated the executive team, chiefs, others, as well as our board president participating in the opening keynote. Day 1, as you might know, was focused on teaching children of African heritage, and we were really pleased to hear from Dr. Joyce King from Georgia State University and Dr. Susan Goodwin from the Rochester Teacher Center, Yolanda Montalvo, Dr. Gaia Shakes, Melanie Funches, and Jackie Campbell from Rock the Future, as well as Nairi Wims Hall. The opportunity for all of us to learn about African heritage and to collectively hear the wisdom of these individuals who have given many, many years of their lives to this deep understanding was deeply, deeply appreciative, and that was shown throughout the standing ovations that they received throughout the day. Day 2 was equally as powerful, beginning with an amazing presentation by those in teen empowerment. The students presented a powerful message. Again, the impact was strong, and the keynote speech with Dr. Joy DeGruy, author of Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, that followed, and the several hours that she spent with us continued to have the same kinds of impact. I also want to thank our own Jerome Underwood and Ruth Turner, their leadership in working with our African American and Latino students, families, and communities around restorative practice and other community-based relational coordination, and their ability to bring forth a conversation again that is challenging and yet deeply appreciated, and will continue this year as we continue these themes in our professional learning throughout the year. and especially on our upcoming Superintendent's Conference Day in October. Day 3 was devoted to the digital classroom and powerful 21st century learning. Many students participated. It's amazing to see when students can teach, all of us. There were also many teacher leaders, instructional coaches, executive directors. Again, many thanks to Anne-Marie Lehner and her staff for connecting powerful curriculum and really good conversations about pedagogy with the 21st century learning work that we've been doing with Dr. Bill Daggett and his staff throughout this year. Day 4, we continue to build commitment and connection with our students, our families, our leaders, and our communities, and for the first time had a joint keynote from Dr. Adam Urbanski and Dr. Tim Kleiby, who engaged in a dialogue about what barriers exist in the contracts that stop any of us from meeting the needs of children, and wanting to understand what we could do collectively and together to make certain that we are squarely focused on doing the right work. It was a great day to hear so many of our teachers, leaders, and parents connect to the first 3 days of learning and begin to make the kinds of commitments that we need in each and every school and every classroom to serve every student by face and name. The last day, we really appreciated the opportunity to get out into the community and to serve ourselves at places such as Food Link, the Center for Youth, American Red Cross, the Baden Street Settlement, and many of our other community partners, as well as 6 of our own buildings, including SODA, Freddie Kamas, Franklin, and World of Inquiry. Having everybody go out and do some cleaning, plant flowers, and really look through the lens of students and community at our buildings and the places that we want our children and families to feel welcome was a great way to kick off our Invitational Schools initiative, which we'll be hearing more about this year. I also want to thank Vermonte Strong, who really concluded the day with a keynote. He's a School Without Walls 2017 graduate. Again, huge impact, very powerful. And as a result, Vermonte will join me as the keynote speaker for the opening of the school year this year for all of our staff to enjoy. Next, I just want to give a brief update on the Path Forward plan. Today, we were able to engage with others from the Boston Public Schools that have had the experience of doing multiple layers of community engagement and deep understanding of neighborhoods and neighborhood histories and practice. And we're learning from them as we begin to plan our own path forward, again aligned with our visions of equity, relational capacity, innovation, coherence, and accountability. We expect to begin town hall meetings in our neighborhoods during late September, and we'll continue to return to do other forms of engagement through October, November, and December. We'll also be doing deep levels of engagement internally, including hundreds of student leaders who will be joining together in October to help us design high schools and middle schools of the future. So we look forward to that. We want to thank all of the commissioners as well as our city leaders and the mayor for supporting and joining in this citywide conversation. Next, I want to thank the RTA for sponsoring the new teacher orientation and induction. We had a great opportunity to, again, address our mentors and new teachers and partners. Just to really reaffirm the commitment to the core values of the district and to give them some additional light summer reading and to encourage the use of the texts that were rolled out for the school leaders, and we will continue to have our teachers engage in that reading with us, and so we look forward to that. Today was the big attendance blitz kickoff, so I want to thank Jerome and the entire staff from the attendance team, as well as many chiefs and our new deputies and others who joined us out knocking on doors and making sure that our students were ready to come back to school. Again, we have made some adjustments this year. Will be a K-12 initiative. The entire senior team and many of the cabinet members will be spending Thursdays once a month doing this work personally, and we will then be meeting with with community partners is a routine practice, and also reviewing monthly the attendance in every single building in terms of tracking students by face and name so that we can make sure to deepen the connection and coordination between the multiple supports and initiatives that are being put into place this year more squarely, certainly than last, as was a rebuilding year. This year, we expect to hit the ground running and anticipate that our full team will be engaged to do this work. I want to conclude by asking our Chief of Human Resources, Harry Kennedy, to give you a staffing update. We set a goal this year. Harry can tell you what the goal is. It was set quite high and not attainable because there's no such thing as 102% unless we're over budget. But Harry, just keep working on that. And I want to thank the entire team for supporting Harry to get our classrooms and our schools ready. So Harry.
Thank you, Barb. To the commissioners, as well as the community partners and community folks. I want to focus on two topics real quick. As Barb stated, I want to give a brief update on the staffing. In addition to that, I want to touch base a little bit on the diversity status within the Rochester City School District. So with that being said, and I don't know if you can see that, but I don't know if we can make it any bigger, but in any event, basically right now we are still staffing. Currently we have a 96% fill rate as relates to staffing for teachers in a classroom. Compared to last year, we were at 94%, so we are moving the bar a little bit faster, a little bit better, and that primarily is related to the fact that we did early recruitment this year. We started to recruit in the month of February, which is the earliest time that we've ever recruited before. So that's what is getting us to this mark as quickly as we have. In addition to that, currently we have roughly right about 110 FTE vacancies. When you compare that to last year, about the same time, we had 167 vacancies. We still are recruiting, we still are hiring. Some of the areas that we are looking for continue to be in the special ed area, specifically special ed 7 through 12, technology, reading, science, and the living earth area, as well as any and all bilingual tenure areas. Some of the challenges related to staffing, I think some of you may know this, but some may not. But again, we continue to have attrition. This year alone, from July 1st to current, we have lost over 118 teachers. So again, as we are trying to staff, teachers are leaving as quickly as we're bringing them in. So if you look at this where we have 110 vacancies, if we did not lose 118 teachers, we'd be at 105% right about now, Bart. But that's just my math. In any event, not only do we have the attrition factor we have to deal with, we also have to deal and adjust with new positions that are created because of student enrollment increasing. So again, there's this constant one step forward, half step back, but again, me and my staff are dedicated to this, and this is what we do this time of the year, and we look to see this thing through. I wanted to share a little bit about a contingency plan if it is needed. I wanted you to know that we have roughly over 471 certified retired teachers in our database. So what the plan is that if you cannot staff your buildings in time for the first day of school, we do have a core of retired certified teachers that will step in and fill those vacancies. Again, we got over 2 weeks ago. We're not giving up on that, but it's good to have a contingency if in fact you need it, okay? So that's really the staffing update, and I'll pause for a minute to see if there's any questions at all.
Any questions? Yes. Is this document that you put up on board docs?
It will be.
Thank you.
Okay.
But Harry, I do think that this presents us with an opportunity. If we have 100 and whatever that number was, 110, that are no longer here due to attrition, then to me, it's a great opportunity to aggressively recruit teachers of color, particularly just not skin color, but that they understand what it is that we are trying to do in this district, that they are culturally conscious, African-centered conscious, because, as you know, most of the students in this district are, in fact, African-American. And so I think that it's a great opportunity here. It's going to be difficult work to try to do it. I don't know if we can get them here this school year, but it lends, in my view, to a great opportunity to go out there and aggressively, whatever we have, whatever incentive, I think, in order to get them here, because it may cost us in the beginning, but I believe it's going to pay off dividends in the future for our community.
And Vice President Elliott, I think that you're right on, and that really leads me right into the next slide, okay? So basically, what this next slide shows talks a little bit about our diversity and our diversity challenges, okay? There's an article that was published by the New York State Education Department, and it's entitled "The State of Racial Diversity in the Educator Workforce." They stated 3 critical bullets that I just want to kind of quickly state and share with you, is that racial makeup of the elementary and secondary school teacher workforce does not match the diversity of students of the population at large. And that's exactly what you just alluded to, Vice President Elliott. It also says that while students of color are expected to make up 56% of the student population by 2024, the teaching population remains overwhelmingly white. Then it says the most recent Department of Education Schools and Staffing Survey showed 82% of public school teachers identify as white, a figure which has remained almost unchanged for the past 15 years. So again, this is a national issue, but I want to say and share that the fact that Barbara Dean Williams, Superintendent Barbara Dean Williams, has come in and has recognized that this is an issue and has basically asked me, as part of the HCI department, to put together an aggressive plan to change this for the city school district.
One of the things I know that is occurring, in fact, I think I've talked to a couple of teachers or administrators in the district where they have African-American personnel here in the district, where they have, you talked about we have a pool of retired teachers that they've gone into a second career. So you have some people here, that may have even been you, who have made their money, been into corporate, and then they take another career. So I'm just going to suggest that we look at if there's a pool there of African Americans who have worked in another career, but want to consider, another career and maybe working in teaching or administration here at our school district. So.
And again, you're right on. I mean, one of the things we do as well is we go to Rochester Works, okay? Because again, we know that when people are unemployed or they have to sign up at Rochester Works, so we do have recruitment sessions there as well. In addition, we are in touch with our fraternities and our sororities, as well as other institutions. Myself being a former Xerox employee, we have various different networking groups. And we also have people that are Kodak employees. So we're trying to tap into that, okay, and make sure that we help those people transition. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. The next slide, again, really talks about some of the numbers. And the fact of the matter is that it is a national challenge, but we have got to do better. I mean, we have got to do better. Right now, the national average, as I shared with you earlier, 82% white versus 18% diversity. Here at the city school district, we are 75% white versus 25% diversity. Now, it doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it better, but we know that we have a challenge so that we can get ourselves out of the basement, if you will, and get us to a point where we can show the community, as well as ourselves, and well as you as the board members, that we take this thing seriously and we're trying to make a difference.
And I do know that when we, one of the things I believe we have to look at is our school-based planning teams. Because when we do have people of color who come through that process, particularly if the majority of those school-based planning teams are white females, they're not going to really embrace African-American male. And so somehow we have to have some conversation about when they are selecting candidates, that they must consider selecting, and we're talking about qualified candidates. So we've got to make sure that we're talking about how do we change that school-based planning formula, or, give them training, whatever the case may be. But it seems that they get stuck in that school-based planning process, and then we don't hire them. So we've got to look at that as well.
And I agree. I believe that in a lot of the school buildings, the school-based planning teams really focus on the administrative hires, and I think we have some building principals that could either attest to that, but I do also know that when we do send candidates out to the building principals, they will talk to other or include other people on their interviewing team. Some of my experiences have found that, and I've met with some of the PAC members and basically have asked the question as to why aren't there more diversity parents on some of these PAC or these school-based planning teams, and I know that they are looking aggressively to help change that as well. Okay, so, but again, your point is well taken, and you're right on. Okay? If you look at some of the numbers here, again, they're not good numbers by any means, but the fact of the matter is that we do know we have a problem. And the fact of the matter is that we are looking to try to change this problem. And so, again, I won't go through all the numbers, but you can take a look at that. It still equates to the 25% diversity number versus the 75% white metric.
It used to be 80-20, so it's we've improved.
I'm working on it.
All right. So now that's what I have to say, 75% as opposed to 80%. All right, thank you.
And this table that we're looking at, I can't read it. Is that a local document, or is this still the link to the state of racial diversity that you mentioned on New York State Department of Ed?
So no, this is the state of the Rochester City School District as it relates to diversity metrics and our staff. Okay.
I'd appreciate a link to that New York State Ed. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll post this. Okay, Mr. Tabb.
Yeah, Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Quick question, do we have the numbers for the Big Five broken down this way as well? I'd be curious to see how we compare to the other districts like Buffalo and Syracuse and Yonkers and that, to see what our numbers look like. Because this is not just an issue for Rochester, it's an issue, especially as I'm looking at the numbers for bilingual teachers, and it's always a major need for us to find qualified bilingual teachers in a country. It's very difficult. The pool is very small. But I'm curious to see what the other districts look like, and just out of curiosity. So if you can do that, that'd be great.
We'll definitely do that work for you. Let me share with you, and again, I wish I had made this bigger, but in any event, what are we doing to change this landscape, okay? And again, part of Barb's direction, Superintendent Barbara D. Williams' direction, has been that we are starting to look at from a cultural awareness standpoint. A couple of things here is that we've changed the recruitment brand to, used to say, welcome to Rochester. Now it says that we are recruiting for mission-driven teachers that have a passion for teaching in an urban district. And we're putting the stamp on it up front that anybody coming through these doors, okay, needs to be aware of the challenges that our urban kids face. So we're no longer, just saying, come on in. We're saying, come on in with a purpose. Come on in with a passion, and come on in with the desire to help our kids read by third grade and graduate. We also, from a cultural awareness standpoint, we are talking about sharing the work that Dr. Joy DeGrood has been doing, as well as Dr. Goodwin, as it relates to racial disparity and racial equity. So again, those two things, not by themselves, but it helps just to make people aware that there is an issue, and in order for us to resolve the issue, you've got to know that there's a problem. And so I applaud the work and the strategy that Barb is using to do that. We've re-engineered our recruitment focus. Here what we've done is we've established both a diversity recruitment team as well as a bilingual recruitment team. And these teams understand the social and economical challenges that our kids face, and they're out there aggressively recruiting, as I shared earlier. The fact that we engage sororities as well as fraternities, as well as other networking groups that understand the passion and can carry our message to get us people that would want to come on board. Spoke a little bit earlier about the early recruitment events. That has been a phenomenal success. We're looking to do that more next year. Diversity benchmarking. We have been partnering with the Buffalo City School District. They have some of the same challenges that we have, and we're sharing best practices to see how we can move those forward. We also have visited 4 HBCUs last year, and again, I'll share you what the plan is for this year. It's going to be more aggressive than that. And then we also went to Puerto Rico in order to start the pipeline for bilingual applicants. So again, we've been doing some things and looking for these things to start to pan out soon. In addition to that, we have been focusing on grow our own, okay? And from a short-term solution, we've been looking at our per diem sub and paraprofessional pool and looking to mine that pool and see what we can do to help people move from being a per diem sub or a para at a much lower pay and then transition them into the teaching ranks. And last year, we hired over 161 employees through that process. In addition to that, we've been working with Uncommon Schools, who they go out, they're a charter school, they have grant money, they have been soliciting black colleges and universities for our diversity candidates, bringing them in as summer interns. They, in essence, work with our summer school programs, and if they're successful there, we, in essence, give them an open contract to come on board with us the following year, once they complete their certification. New this year, we've been working with the TLI Institute, okay? And we're saying if we can do this with Uncommon Schools as far as offering open contracts, why can't we offer open contracts to those youth that go on to study in the educational field and come back and are looking for an opportunity to be employed by the city school district. And we figure if it's good enough for East, it's good enough for the rest of the district. Lastly, we've engaged Teach for America, and that's another program that we're looking to embark on. However, at this point in time, they cannot support the city school district due to the limited number of resources.
Go ahead, Isabel.
Good, not support.
Who?
Teach for America. Teach for America.
Oh,
I have a comment in our questions log about that.
can you direct it to the chair first and then ask the questions?
They're leaders.
Commissioner? Direct it to the chair first and then ask? Sure. All right. Commissioner Hallmark?
I just wanted to say to the commissioners that I agree with Mary. I have some issues with the Teach for America. Their training is questionable, and the students that they draw from are not necessarily those that we wish to be using. And there's a focus on testing and no-excuse behavior approaches to the classroom that is opposite to what we're really trying to implement here in restorative practices and such. The Teach for a Champion book kind of outlines all of that approach. So anyway, I have some questions about TFA.
Thank you. Superintendent Dean Williams?
So I just want to clarify something about Teach for America. This is about using contacts at Teach for America to reach individual graduates of programs that may have bilingual capacity that we cannot get here. So rather than having someone who doesn't speak the language at all, it would be an individual recruitment and full interview process, but the choice was having somebody versus not having anyone. So I just want to be clear, it wasn't about building a formal partnership, it was about mining a certain population that could assist us.
Any other questions, commissioners?
I have a general question. Is it over?
No.
I mean, is the presentation
No,
complete?
I just got
Okay.
2 more slides. Okay, now I'll be quick here, okay? The next slide, I just want to share with you, we talked about the aggressive recruitment plan, and again, as I said, Barb has challenged us to do this. Our goal this year really is to, again, acquire mission-driven teachers. The key strategies that we're going to be using is charge to increase our metrics by at least 10%, double-digit. In addition to that, we're continuing to do early recruitment events. We're going to start them earlier this year in December versus February. In addition to that, we'll continue to grow our own, and then we will continue to build an aggressive recruitment plan that targets 10 historical black colleges and additional events in Puerto Rico. The last slide basically says that, again, as far as diversity is concerned, Barb has met with the president of St. Augustine University, and we have a commitment there to, again, embrace the community and the church ranks with an opportunity to work with them as we continue to mine for teachers of color. We also continue to work with some of the other HCBUs that we've gone to this year to continue that pipeline. And then I just close with...
If you don't mind me,
Yes.
I think the churches is going to be a godsend. So I think you're going to get, if you have an aggressive campaign around those churches, I think that's going to result in some, you're going to get some positive results out of there. So I would recommend strongly that you do an aggressive campaign around the churches.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, is just to close that, you know, we understand the challenge and we are up for the challenge, and look to embrace everything we do in the spirit of Erica. So thank you, and if there's any questions, again, I can take them at this time.
Commissioner Adams?
So just quick one comment. I really, really appreciate the work with TLI. That's something that some of us have been, hoping to see happen for a long, long time. So wonderful. And I see it in motion, from the people at TLI and so forth. And I would say that on the earlier end for longer term planning, it would be worthwhile to make sure that all students in, late elementary through through middle school are aware of the TLI program, so that we're recruiting our own from the very earliest end and making sure that people are aware and parents are aware of what an excellent, excellent program that is. It's really, really a profoundly, students who graduate from TLI are among the best in our universities. The University of Rochester, other universities will come back and they'll tell us that TLI students are better than students from many other schools. So it really stands out, and so let's do everything we can to make sure that students who might be interested know about TLI when they're in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. So thank you for that. My question that I wanted to ask was going back to the statement about having difficulty finding especially special education teachers, and I'm concerned, it's clearly a huge area of concern and a huge problem, and in the past we've had huge problems with placement of special education students, and we've made a commitment to stop moving students into the programs, or at least really address this problem of moving students from place to place in order to get the services that they need and deserve. And so I'm just wondering where we're at this fall as school is about to open. Do we have a situation where students are going to have to be moved, or have we really gotten a hold of that, and are we in a better place?
I'm going to ask Chief Simpson to step to the microphone and just give us an update. She actually was working with the chiefs an hour ago, still trying to meet our goal of 100%. We're really, really focused and trying.
So as far as the moving around for programs and everything, one of the things that you've heard repeatedly every year is that we wind up having an influx of students coming through, reviews that get held, and then we have to determine where classes need to open. So I'm happy to report, Superintendent, that because of the chiefs pulling together, and also the Office of Placement with Ray and with Joe Capizzuto and the leadership that's there, that for the moment, we have captured and located where all of our students may be placed prior to the opening of school. In the past, we've had to wait until sometimes October before we've done that. Now, it's not perfect, we're still imperfect, because we still have reviews that are being held like this week, next week. The kids are still moving in. But one of the things I would tell you that I'm so proud of too, we've met over the summer with the chiefs. Chiefs have been meeting with the principals, and we're looking at that future long-term goal of where do we want to be aligned. So where are there clusters of programs so that we can build there and continue, so that a student doesn't have to exit a building within a year or two because the program isn't at that age group or whatever. So I'm feeling much more confident that we're very conscious about those kinds of decisions. We're doing it. It's putting pressure on the buildings to be thinking that way too, but they've all been stepping up, and I'm happy to say that we're in a better place than we were last summer, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Sandy. Commissioner Hallmark? Is the question to Sandy?
Not to you, no.
Okay.
Just I wanted to comment on your presentation here. Thank you. Bravo for all this work. I want to appreciate the work that the superintendent has done in pushing this initiative, and HCI for leading it. And I also want to say it's a little bit ironic that the group who got that story out in the newspaper about how we weren't doing enough and nothing is ever happening, has not really bothered to communicate with us. And I know, in fact, there's been a lot of offers to meet with that group, but they're not satisfied. So I think, and I'm glad that I saw Tim Macaluso from City. So I hope that the story of what we are actually doing and what we are accomplishing and working on will get out there, that it's reported on, and that story will get out there, because we are actually working on this, and it's good work. So bravo, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Hallmark. And I would like to just piggyback on that and just commend the superintendent for her passion for equity. You could just look in the first row and see her team that Superintendent Dean Williams is passionate about equity. Every chief, except maybe one, Sandy, are African American. And her executive team goes from like 30% people of color to 70%. So she's to be commended for that. She's only been here 1 year. And so we can't move the needle overnight. It is going to take some time, but I commend her. I support the work and the efforts she's doing. I don't remember any other superintendent doing this kind of work in this district before. She's bringing in national experts to help us with this issue. She knows she doesn't know it all when it comes to persons of African descent. She is not a person of African descent. So she doesn't know, but she is willing to reach out to people, to bring people in. I mean, you're talking about this has happened within 1 year. When she has gone to various conferences, she brings people in. That's how she got Superintendent March over there. So she's doing the work that she's supposed to be doing. And so I want the community to at least recognize that there's some work that's been done. There's tremendous work that's being done, and she's looking at the systems to ensure that the systems are equitable as well. And so I want to commend Superintendent Dean Williams. I also want to commend her staff and the people that she's brought on, and I believe that if these people are committed, that she's brought on, if they've got the heart to work with people of color, and that they don't back up, when there's pressure, that we're going to see some changes. And like the Bible said, we'll see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. I really believe that. So I just want to commend you, Superintendent Dean Williams, and thank you for that work that you're doing. Thank you so very much. And then I just have one other thing to say. Hey, Mr. President, we see you. How are you?
Good. How are you all doing?
As well, but welcome.
Can you hear me?
It's kind of low. I think they're working on it, Mr. President. It's coming.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep. Let me just add my little 2 cents about this conversation about diversity. First of all, I've spent a professional lifetime working on this, and so I know good work when I
Mr.
see it.
President, your
Yes?
words are kind of gibbled, so
Hello?
you can share it, but I just want to let you know it's a little bit gibberish.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but go ahead, Mr. President.
Okay. As I indicated, I have spent a professional lifetime, as many of you have, on this issue of diversity in the workplace. So I know good and bad work, like many of you all, when it's taking place. And I cannot disagree with anybody who has indicated that the superintendent has tried mightily in her brief period of time to change what they in the world can concede is an abysmal record of diversity in our district. As Harry Kennedy has indicated, it is simply no longer acceptable, and by the work of the superintendent, we know by implication she would agree with us. I would say, however, Vice President Elliott, her ability to diversify the senior staff, while excellent work, is not comprehensive enough. And by saying that, I'm not saying that she has not done a good job. What we truly need, what Mr. Kennedy's data truly reflects, is a lack of diversity, not at central office, which is important, by the way. And again, let me reiterate, she should be commended for that work. But that is altogether different than the complete lack of diversity for our children, black and white, in the classroom, in the school building. And again, our recognition of the excellent work that she has done, one would describe as almost unprecedented work at central office, cannot deflect criticism or concern, depending on how you want to call it, depending on who's talking, the serious problem we have in our classroom. Those children don't see that wonderful diversity that our superintendent has put together at 131 West Broad Street. The parents don't see it. And when I talk about children and parents, I'm not just talking about black children, because white children are going to grow up in a multi-dimensional, a multicultural environment where most people are not going to look like them. This is a global economy. So it is critical that, and I know the superintendent and her excellent staff appreciate this, it is critical that this diversity that she has so aggressively sought and found at central office, that an equal amount of energy, and I assume that she will do that, takes place at ensuring that we have such diversity at the school level where our parents and our students. Now, let me just say, as Commissioner Adams and I'm sure other people have said it, excellent work was done even before she got here. The Teaching Learning Institute, the Delahantes have done a great job at opening people's eyes about the wonderful profession that we know as teaching. They've just done a great job. We have people that are in our district and people who are not in our district, have advanced degrees, and some are teaching and some are not. And that is a result of the good work that is taking place at East High School. And the Delahantes and all the people that have developed that program. And I apologize that I can't name all the folks that have put that work into that program. I agree with Mr. Kennedy that, and others who have said before him, that we need to grow our own. We need, as Mr. Kennedy indicated, as sure the superintendent would indicate, we need to be aggressive about recruiting. And I commend them and their predecessors for this work, but the fact is the needle has not moved. Now, I suggest, in addition to all that good work, that we need to reevaluate the existing pool of talent that we have, that is particularly people of color who have applied for these jobs and heretofore have not been able to get them. Now, because we cannot talk about people's names in public, I can't mention particular employees. But you all who have been on the board for a while know that there are people of color who have applied for these jobs, have not gotten them, and on some occasions have been literally run out of schools. And I know you all been around a while. You know who I'm talking about. People have applied for these administrative posts, have not gotten them. People who have been in these posts and have been literally run out of schools. So it's not just about TLI. It cannot just be about TLI. It cannot just be about growing our own. It cannot just be about aggressive recruitment. It has got to be about retention. And respectfully, this district, prior to Barbara Dean Williams getting here, has an abysmal record for that as well. So tonight, we are considering the possibility that some employees might be elevated to positions that might be sought after by people of color. And I respectfully suggest that before we make a decision about those people, that we scrutinize what is available and who was selected. Because yes, we can have long-range plans, but respectfully, my colleagues, the civil rights battle is tonight. Tonight is the night where we can make a decision about changing the trajectory of our recruitment efforts. Yes, we can recruit in Puerto Rico and so forth. Yes, we can grow our own. Yes, we can support the TLI. But tonight, when we have those resolutions before us, where the administration is asking us to identify, to vote, to appoint individuals to these positions, we need to make sure that they are the best qualified and that there isn't an equally qualified person before. So I have asked, because I've been listening the whole night, I have asked Commissioner Adams, and since this technology is working now, to make a motion to go into executive session regarding Resolution 151, so that we can discuss what has been made available to us, and so that we can discuss other possible options, because the day to diversify is today. Thank you.
Let me just also say that I believe that the superintendent has delegated the authority of recruitment to her middle team. So that's in the form of principals. So the conversation has to be, in my view, it has to be with the principals and others who have that responsibility. And so, because she has given them the authority to do it. And so the conversation that President White has just said, I would just want to cascade that conversation down to those people who have decision-making authority and hiring authority, because that authority has been given. And so the question becomes, in my mind, something at another time around policy. But at this point in time, we have been, she has given that authority to those people. And I think the conversation, President Wright, on some level, has to be with those who now have that authority to make those decisions.
Vice President Elliott, let me just add this. While I do not disagree with you that it requires professional development and perhaps a little bit of reorientation for all people, but let me just suggest to you, let me just say, those people who the superintendent has judiciously and prudently said, okay, help me vet these candidates. Let's be clear about this. They are not the decision makers. They are making a recommendation to their boss, who we have trusted to make a recommendation to us. But let's be clear about this. We are the decision makers. We are the persons who tonight will make a decision regarding diversity or the lack thereof. You are absolutely right. We need to build capacity. We need to get the Dr. DeGruy in there so people understand that the opportunity for diversity belongs to them in the form of a judicious recommendation that looks at candidates' hearts and their brains. But ultimately, the decision to appoint someone or not squarely rests with the Board of Education. So that's why I say Dr. King's battle, Malcolm X's battle, Marcus Garvey's battle, Fannie Lou Hamer's battle is tonight. We make that decision tonight, whether to diversify or not. We make that civil rights stand tonight. Now, let me just say, we might conclude that the candidates that the superintendent has put before us are qualified and are the people that should be put before our children. But we should consider the implications of our failure to consider all available candidates and make sure all available candidates get the equal shot, because we are the decision makers.
President White, we'll go on to standing committee reports. We'll start with Commissioner Powell.
Yes, thank you. The Policy Committee met on Tuesday, August 15th, and we reviewed a number of proposed amendments to policies. including 3 that were advanced tonight in your packet as information items, which means that we will discuss them in September and vote on them in October. The first of those is the district policy prohibiting harassment or discrimination against students and employees. This proposed policy changes reflect the provisions of the Dignity for All Students Act. The second one is employee obligations surrounding reporting of suspected child abuse and neglect. And this policy has specific requirements have been added to regarding reporting and investigation of suspected child abuse in the educational setting as mandated by New York State law. And finally, the wellness policy has been updated to reflect recent changes in federal law and regulation and the recommendations of the district's wellness task force. In this last case, this is not likely to be the last time that we have changes to the wellness policy, only the most urgent set of recommendations to our wellness policy. We also have been working through 2 policies. Tonight you will cast your vote on Policy 5600, Access to Education, Student Privacy Law, and Immigration Enforcement. This particular policy was fast-tracked with the goal of getting this policy in place before school starts. This new proposed policy was circulated in early July as an information item, presented in July 27th's business meeting as a discussion item. Policy provides guidance to staff for responding to situations in which the law or immigration enforcement may request access to student information records or to interview a student. The provisions require protection of student privacy and information and direct staff to contact the Office of General Counsel and the Superintendent's Office for further guidance in these situations. The intent is to protect all students and prevent schools from being used as a mechanism for immigration enforcement, particularly since schools are charged with providing education to all children regardless of their immigration status. The next policy that you'll be looking at tonight, the resolutions are Resolution 189 and 190. The second one is the de-escalation of crisis situations. This is also a new proposed policy which also distributed to the board in July and discussed in July 27th's business meeting. The proposed policy is intended to address concerns that have been raised regarding special education in the district and has been reviewed by outside agency organizations. In addition, the members of the policy committee have been discussing a proposed student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention policy. The committee decided to submit the proposed policy to Cabinet to consider the capability of current information systems to generate specific data and reports regarding student bullying, and in light of the system upgrades that are planned for later this year. This information would be used by the committee in determining specific reporting requirements to include in the proposed policy. The policy committee also reviewed the new proposed educational technology policy and decided to obtain further information about potential student privacy concerns. Plans are underway to invite a member of the ACLU to upcoming meeting to discuss these concerns. For the next, our next meeting had been scheduled for August 12th, except that was, October 12th, but that's the date of the New York State School Board Association meeting in Lake Placid. So it's been rescheduled to October 17th. We plan on reviewing the Code of Conduct and proposed revisions based on the recommendation of the New York State School Board Association to discuss findings from the survey of teen mothers about their child care needs in reference to our daycare policy number 5324.1. Review of recommended changes to the preschool education policy, discuss draft amendments to the education of homeless students, that would be McKinney-Bento, and review a draft of new policy regarding field trips and international travel. That concludes my report. As I said, the next meeting is currently scheduled to be October 17th. That would be a Tuesday, 6 p.m.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Commissioner Hallmark?
Thank you. The Governance Committee did not meet in the month of August, but I will take a point of personal privilege to talk about a couple of events that I attended. I had the pleasure of going to the Leadership Summit for a day and a half, and so I got to hear Dr. Joy DeGruy and Dr. King speak, and it was great information, and the energy in the room was wonderful for both of their keynotes. And I heard a lot of administrators really commenting on how much they appreciated the summit, and that the information had been organized well, and it was really inspiring. So compared to other years, so it was really, I was happy to see that happen. Not only the great speakers, but like the energy in the room was excellent. I also attended the Business Opportunities Program, where they were giving certificates of completion. It's a 17-week program to small businesses, minority and women businesses, helping them increase their capacity and their tools for being eligible for projects with the district. And that too was a wonderful event. Got to know a lot of folks there, and I'm happy to see that this sort of program is happening here. So that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hallmark. Commissioner Evans?
ESA, as you know, we meet every other month, and we'll be meeting next month tentatively on September 26th. But I just wanted to take a quick moment of personal privilege because for those that don't know in the community, we lost two giants of women in the community recently. The first one I want to mention is someone who really inspired me around pushing for the expansion of pre-K when I first got on the board back in 2004, and that's Jackie Cady. As you know, Tom Fry, her husband, former county executive, passed away about 5 months ago, and unfortunately Jackie just passed away, Commissioner Adams, I think it was last week.
That's right.
So that is a major blow for this community. I was just going through my email and I saw a note from Jackie from May 2nd. You know, she came and addressed us at the budget hearing about early childhood education and the importance of summer learning opportunities for young people. So Jackie really was a tireless advocate for early childhood education. And I submit to you that some of the gains that we've made in terms of the increase in childhood education would not have happened had it not been for Jackie's advocacy. She was not one to stand on the table and pound and yell and scream, but she made her points known, and she really made sure that children who sometimes get lost or forgot about in the conversation were front and center in the conversation. And secondly, I wanted to mention a trailblazer of a woman. If I could live half the life that Vernice Warfield lived, we all would be great people. She lived to be 102. She was buried today, but as you know, the founding of the Urban League, the founding of the Emma Beechwood neighborhood, so many things in this community would not have happened because of her. She was one of the first women to attend the University of Rochester, one of the first women to be ordained by the Methodist Church. So I just wanted to mention those two people because, you know, Rochester is better because of those strong women that we had in our community, and they will be their work will be sorely missed. But I think we can take solace in that the work won't end because they set a path that many of us have that we will be able to follow. And I will tell you that as a younger person that's getting older, I still tell people I'm still a youth. They set the standard of what excellence is and what community uplift is, and that's what all of us are here for. We're here for community uplift, and those two women were trailblazers that set the path for that. So thank you, and then the next, like I said, the next ESA committee meeting will be September 26th.
Thank you, Commissioner Evans. Commissioner Cruz?
Thank you, Madam President of the day.
Thank you.
The Finance Committee met on Thursday, August 17th, and considered a number of resolutions. We fully vetted the finance report for June 2017, and we also looked at July 2017. So I put forth the motion to receive both of those reports.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Approved.
Thank you. Finance Committee is putting forth a number of resolutions this evening regarding East EPO, procurement, facilities, and several under other. And then we did have a late submission, which is verbally presented to the committee. It was considered review, and the committee is also advancing this resolution, and that has to do with the folks who are brokering our benefits for the district. I just want to commend the staff, the finance staff, and Harry's folks. They have done a great job working with this particular organization. They have saved a tremendous amount of money this coming into this year. Got them to renegotiate and to give us a great price on some of the things that they're charging us with. So kudos to your folks saving us some money. So our next Finance Committee meeting is going to be September 21st. That's the end of my report.
Commissioner Cruz, am I allowed to ask a couple of questions?
You may.
On resolutions for the procurement of supply, the request is for a fourth-year expenditure to extend the contract, but there are fourth-year expenditures that are listed in the resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Can you clarify that?
Yeah, we got Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah, they're asking for an additional, to extend it from a third year to a fourth year, but fourth-year expenditures are listed on both 173 and 174.
Commissioner Elliott,
Yes.
I think you'll find that the prior year's expenditures are only there for reference purposes, to give a sense of how much has been spent in those categories in the past.
The issue is that asking that the third year, there'd be an additional year of the third year, but there's fourth-year expenditures there. That's what I want to clarify.
It's showing the history 4 years back, including the first year before this particular contract. The first year, the first extension, second extension, third extension, now we're in the fourth year.
Can you explain, because I'm not getting it? Because I would have thought that it would be 3 years, and then if we're asking that if the request is that the contract is extended another year, that there would not be fourth-year expenditures listing. So, and I'm not getting what you're saying, Commissioner Powell. It's not registered.
Yes, the fourth year is the planned expenditures. That's what we're
Oh, that's the
asking for.
planned expenditure, so it has not been expended yet?
No.
So why, well, okay.
So I can double check that and get back to you, but that's.
Okay, so those are, those is what's going to be expended?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we are asking.
All right, because I understood, and I think that when I was on the Finance Committee, I asked that we have the expenditures for the, prior 3 years. And so my interpretation would have been that would have been historical information, not the request.
And I'll double check and make sure that we get that answer.
All right.
That's the intention.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Adams? Thank you, Mr. Cruz, Commissioner Cruz.
Actually, I was just asking if certain issues were discussed in Finance Committee, which they were, so I'm good.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. And my report, before we go to the President's report, is that we had scheduled a community and governmental relations meeting for, I believe, last week, but Commissioner Hallmark was out of town and Commissioner Adams got sick, so we did not have no worries. We did not have a meeting, but we're trying to reschedule that meeting for sometime this month, and I'll just have to get back to people. I think both of you sent me dates, so I'll just have to get back.
And point of information.
Sure.
Were you calling on me regarding reports?
Oh, yes, I was.
the audit committee did not meet in this past month, but we're scheduled for an October 10th meeting at 5:30.
Well, thank you, sorry about that.
No,
Sorry about that
my
confusion. So we will reschedule the Community and Intergovernmental Relations Committee, and it will be on board docs. It will be announced when that meeting is going to be. Mr. President, do you have a report? Mr. President?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. First of all, I want to echo Commissioner Evans' remarks regarding Jackie Kennedy and the amazing Ms. Warfield. And when so I don't need to repeat what he said because he said it very eloquently, but I would add, as you did earlier, Vice President Elliott, Heather Heyer and her courageous act. And I think it's more than enough to say that the sacrifices that these individuals made during the course of their lifetimes should make whatever we have to do, whether it's voting or just trying to do our best to move this district in a direction, in an equitable and fair direction. Their efforts, their sacrifices pale what we might do and give us courage to do what we must do. So thank you, Commissioner Evans and Vice President Elliott, for recognizing these individuals and the amazing contributions that they made. I just want to tell you all, for those of you who don't know, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to be joined by Barbara and her team and a number of other people from Rochester to look at the models and approaches that Atlanta takes to community schools. We're really excited about this trip. I decided to come down a little bit earlier. That lady that you see kind of sneaking around in the back and looking and trying to keep her head down, that's my wonderful mother. She is here in Atlanta, Georgia with my 3 sisters. And I'm so blessed to be here and have the opportunity to spend some time with her. She keeps me laughing and she keeps everything in perspective. She just said, I didn't know that showed me. She's a wonderful person, and I know you all have your share of family stories too. And by the way, this is a point of personal privilege. You see over on this side of my shoulder, let's see, this side of my shoulder, you see my dad and my mom when they were doing some traveling. And on the other shoulder, you see my grandmother, Grandma Shields and Grandpa Shields. Family is a wonderful thing, and it keeps us all grounded. And I'm blessed to spend some time with my family. But while I was here, in advance of Barbara and the rest of the district family joining me here, I decided to go to a couple schools here in Atlanta who I have no connection with, because we're all in this sort of education family and we're all facing the same challenges. And I went to a school this morning, an elementary school in Atlanta, Georgia, and had the opportunity to sort of sit around and wait for the fire bell thing to get resolved. And I saw kids coming in and going into the counselor's office, and it doesn't look any different than our school. You know, a little girl was on the phone because her teacher brought her in with her mom, and she wouldn't give up her phone, and the struggles that the teacher was having to get the girl to respect her. And yet another student came in with another teacher, and she was praising him for stopping a bully. So we're all in this together, and I could not the folks to be engaged in this struggle with in Rochester. But it was good to spend time at Thomasville Heights Elementary School in Atlanta, Georgia. I had a chance to read to them a book that I had recently written, and I look forward again to Barbara and her team coming here on Sunday. I always I like to believe that people understand I'm always a straight shooter, and I'm quick to give out compliments, but I'm also quick to be constructive in my comments about how we can do better. I think there was some evidence of that earlier on. I'll go back to something I do quite frequently and regularly, and it happens a lot with Barbara and her team, to give them kudos. On the 2017 Leadership Summit, I was there, I witnessed it, folks, and they are right. We haven't had anything like that before, and I've been to quite a few beginning of the year summits of district leaders and sometimes the teachers, and I've never seen anything like that. And by the way, as my colleagues know, you folks out there don't know, but that was an event that took place, an unprecedented event that took place after another unprecedented event. And I spoke about that last week, that last business meeting where Barbara gathered her team and put them in front of the Board of Education. And they didn't just say, okay, this is what we're going to do. They said, these are our ideas. What do you think? And I've said to Barbara and others, not only might this district and her team benefit from hearing diverse voices, and I know she knows that, but the other side or ancillary effect of that kind of conversation is it builds trust. And let's be honest, we haven't always had that at 131 West Broad Street. When you listen to people and they listen to you, you're developing a trusting relationship. So that too, in that respect, was unprecedented. Finally, I want to commend Mike Schmidt, Amy, Linda Simmons, by the way, Mary Adams, Commissioner Evans, Commissioner Mary Adams, Commissioner Evans, for their work in helping bring to fruition the early college transfer, if you will, of our 11th and 12th graders to MCC. This is a positive, again, too, unprecedented effort in our community. And it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen by the work of one person. And I think we should acknowledge that. This effort began actually even before Linda Simmons was there, but Linda Simmons and I walked around the MCC's new digs before they got all the asbestos out of there. Mike Schmidt has been working on this for a while, Amy, and charge it to my heart, to my head, not to my heart. If I've left people out, I just want to tell you all that the community recognizes the kind of leadership that is sustained, that doesn't give up when things get difficult. Commissioner Evans could have said, screw this. They just won't do an early college. They won't do what the rest of the nation does when they say they're going to have an early college. And for years, to that staff that said, boy, they promised us we could move to a college campus. They could have given up, and they didn't. So to everyone who had a hand, and there are many people, in making this a reality, including Barbara Dean Williams' team that brought it to closure, at least this phase of it. Kudos. Well done. That concludes my report.
Mr. President, thank you so very much. Before we get into the resolutions, I just want a point of personal privilege myself. One of the things that we have talked about, and we begin to talk about this at the Community and Intergovernmental Relations Committee, we also are starting to talk about it at the board's officers meeting with the superintendent, is getting the information out to our parents and our community so that we can empower them to become stakeholders, equipped, if you will, or equal stakeholders in our community and in the education of their children. And just one of the things I want to say to our families out there is how important reading is. I know that the superintendent is getting ready to be aggressive on a literacy issue, and I just want to say to our parents and our families out there that begin to read to your children as early as in the womb. As you're reading, our children are going to pick that up and continue to read to them, when they're out of the womb, when they're, weeks old, when they're months old. We've got to help our children to begin school on target so that they are able to transition successfully through their grades, through their elementary and secondary education. What we've seen in the past is that we've seen some of our students, I've gotten some emails from students who are prepared to graduate from high school, but they can't write. And so we've got to parents asking you to make sure you're reading to your children, grandparents, aunties and uncles, if you could read to these children when they're little, because it gives them a head up in being successful in their academic pursuit. So I want to thank you for that, and we'll continue to have those kinds of tidbits in our community. So the next
Vice President Elliott, Vice President Elliott, I'm sorry. I made a mistake, and I'm owning it right now. I left out a critical piece to this whole MCC thing. And because I don't know everyone is involved, let us just give Ann Kress and her team a round of applause for stepping out and helping us. I realize this was presented as many challenges for us as it presented to our team, so we appreciate them. Thumbs up, Ann, and all your people who helped us out. Thank you, Vice President Elliott.
President, so for consideration for resolutions. Can I get a motion on resolutions, these are the EPO resolutions, 127 through 143?
Second.
I'm going to vote, thank you. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so I have a no vote on 139. 141, I was going to ask some questions, but I think how Eagle expressed my sentiments, so my vote on 141, which is the Encompass resolution, is going to be no.
Madam Vice President, what were those resolutions that you just called?
127
What was the
and
numbers?
142? 127
Okay.
through 142?
143.
Thank you.
Excuse me, 143, my apologies. So 127 to 143? Your vote is, can the president vote?
Yes, yes,
you
ma'am.
can.
Okay,
Yes.
so your vote, thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
Resolutions 144, is that one that we need
Motion
to
to
go
table.
into?
I'm sorry, motion to go into executive session on that one.
Can I get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Resolutions 145 through 165.
Motion
Vice
to, go ahead, Mary.
Commissioner Adams?
I would like to make a motion to go into executive session for both 151 and 156.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll remove those. Mr. President? What was your vote? Okay.
Yes.
So we'll take those into executive session. So we're taking 151, 156, as well as 144? Those are the resolutions that are going into executive session? Is that correct? Yes. Okay, all right. Okay. So is there a motion, can I get a motion for the remainder of those HCI resolutions? 145 through 165, except for 151 and 156. Can I get a motion on that?
Move them, Madam Vice President.
May I get a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye on all of those. I'm thinking additional resolutions. Can I get a motion for the additional pay resolutions, 166 through 172?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. Can I get, all in favor?
Vice President Elliott?
Yes, Commissioner Adams.
I'd like to just make a comment that I'm concerned about the
Mary, could you
high,
speak into the mic? I can't.
I'm concerned about the high levels of spending from the general fund and/or from pending grant sources for extended learning time. And so I will be voting against 166 and 169 for that purpose.
Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor, did we get a motion for those?
Yes, we did.
All right, so all those in favor of 166 through 172, can I get?
Aye.
Aye.
President? All right, and I vote no on all those? All right. Resolutions 173 through 174?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Educational facilities,
Those as well.
second? Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
On those resolutions, I need to abstain from 180 because I work at Baden Street Settlement, so I want to abstain for that, but all the other ones I vote yes. All right. And the other resolutions, 181 to 202, and let me just point, Commissioner Powell?
Yeah, my packet stops at 201. I'm sorry.
We received a resolution around Monroe Community College. We just received
Oh,
it.
this is the early college.
Yes.
Still looking for the, okay, got it, thank you.
All right, okay. And then additionally, do we do this now in terms of making asking for an amendment to Resolution 198? You all should have got the 198 with the amendment, and it's,
Yep.
all right, so can I get a motion for the amendment of 198 resolution? Am I saying that correctly?
That is mostly a technical amendment. So
Yes.
yes, I'll move the amendment.
Thank you.
Second.
All right, thank you. All those in favor of resolutions,
You have to move,
okay.
yeah,
help me.
call for a vote on the amendment first.
All right, so I'm calling for the vote on the amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now we can go to resolutions 181 through 202.
You should vote on the motion as amended, ma'am.
Okay, so, thank you. So we'll vote on the amendment we'll vote on the resolution as amended.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so all those in favor, let's do that again. And we're talking about the resolution 198, just that. Okay, all right, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And so we're going to be voting on the other resolutions, 181 through 202. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Move. Second.
All right, and all those in favor of 181?
Excuse me, I wanted to make a comment regarding 189, which is the adoption of the policy
Oh, yes. Thank you.
that's protective of immigrant students and families, and I just want to thank our General Counsel, Carl Christoph, for working on that extensively. And, at one point, there was a thinking that we already were completely covered and we didn't need to necessarily take this action because we're following the law and we're following the guidance of the Attorney General. But I think it is very important, and I really appreciate that the board collectively and you in particular took the time to express this and articulate it. The resolution and some of the material was modeled off of an NEA model content for this purpose, and I think that it's excellent that we've adopted that, and I appreciate not just the regulation, but also the actions that go above and beyond that, and hope to see that continued, as we go forward, and that principals and other relevant people continue to receive the materials, the training that they need. There are some specifications in the policy and in the regulations regarding materials that are to be distributed, and training and professional development that should be done to implement this. So thank you.
I actually wanted Carl to sort of present that so that the community knows what we're doing. So if you could just provide us with just a brief overview of the policy, Carl. Thank you, Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Good evening, Commissioners. The policy is best summarized by the resolution that the board is considering to adopt. It begins with the premise that every child, regardless of immigration status, has a right to go to school in this district. It continues by saying that law enforcement activities, including those of immigration authorities, can be disruptive of our learning environment. That the district has made a commitment to a safe and a stable learning environment. That our parents and students have reported to us, however, that they have considerable concern about the reported activities, particularly of the immigration authorities in these times. And considering all of that, Policy 5600 was developed, and the district simply will not allow any individual or organization to enter a school site if the educational setting would be disrupted by the visit. We will also protect student privacy. That's an integral part of this. And we will certainly cease any practice that we have that could be either potentially discriminatory or cause a student to unnecessarily reveal his or her immigration status. And finally, we will certainly, before any access is granted, ensure that all the process that is due the particular student who is under scrutiny is followed meticulously. So with that said, Madam Vice President, unless there are questions, that I think is a fair summary.
All right, thank you. You have any questions, Mr. President?
Yeah, no, just a comment. Piggybacking on what Commissioner Adams said, Carl, well done. We could not have developed that policy without you. The level of expertise that you brought to that allowed us to feel confident that we were within the law, because this is not to use a word I've used a lot already today, but this is unprecedented terrain for this Board of Education because there are strong interests at different levels of government that would have us do differently with respect to our students. And again, this policy 5600 begins with the premise that we are there to provide, as the Constitution of the State of New York requires, a unfettered, free education to our children. And I believe this policy
Let's move on with the rest of the meeting.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is that Commissioner Adams and all my colleagues are like this. They do not take credit where credit is due. Commissioner Powell, Commissioner Adams, and Commissioner Cruz, who are all part of the policy committee. I think I even saw Commissioner Hallmark participate in some of these discussions. This is a tough policy, and I think it's going to be easy to defend because our staff and our colleagues did a good job in drafting and vetting this important policy. So there's enough congratulations to go around. And finally, I think we need to understand too that the New York State School Boards Association, School Boards Association was helpful in drafting this as well. So thank you, Madam Vice President.
Madam Vice President?
Yes.
Point of personal privilege.
Certainly.
I just want to say that, but by the grace of God go I. My primary education was exclusively here in the United States, but I wasn't born here. I've carried a green card since I was 3 years old. And because I'm white and English speaking, I never once suffered any consequences of being an immigrant. And I can only gasp at some of the horrors that immigrants from other countries, refugees, undocumented visitors to this country have to put up with in today's environment. That's why we need policies like this on the books, and that's why we need people in our schools looking out for children because they can't look out for themselves. And when in doubt, call the Office of General Counsel. Don't try to make something up on the fly. When in doubt, call the General Counsel. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. Any other comments?
One quick
Commissioner
comment.
Cruz?
Thank you. I want to also thank the staff because they actually reached outside of the district to get some input from other organizations, one of which was Legal Aid and their immigration staff and lawyers. And so they actually reviewed the policy and came back with a number of considerations that were also included in the process. So it was a good effort to not only within the district but outside, NISBA, Legal Aid, and some other organizations that were involved as well. So I just wanted to give kudos to that. And the last thing I want to say is, Carl, thank you for the letter that you sent to all those partners, bringing the loop back around to them to let them know that we take their input seriously. We don't do that often, and just basically thanking them that they are serious partners and that we do appreciate the work they do with us, and your letter did that, so thank you.
Any questions on any other agenda item? Any other of the resolutions in this group? Well, I do have a couple of questions. One is in reference to Resolution 183. I'm going to vote no on this because I don't know if this person has some cultural competency. I think we're going to have to start to ask when we enter into contracts with people whether or not they have the experience of working with our community. And do they have people on their staff that work with our community? And so similar to the Encompass resolution, on this resolution of 183, my vote is going to be no. And then in reference to 197, Mike already gave me the answer about this. This has to do with the city dedicating part of that space. You want to talk, just share that with me, that we no longer need that space over at School 43. So if the bus is not going to be there anymore, where is that going to be? Or are we going to,
Good evening. All we are doing is just moving the actual RTS shelter about 25 feet just away from the curb line.
Okay.
It is very much necessary for the school. We want to continue to have the stop there.
Okay.
But they need to do street repairs, and it's in the area where they need to do that.
all right, thank you. Thank you, Mike. Any other questions about those resolutions? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to oppose 183, 186, and that's it.
And I'm voting no on 183 and 184.
Okay, you got that, Madam Clerk? Yes. Okay. All right, that concludes the, Mr. President, your vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So that concludes the consideration of resolutions. Well, is that where we go? What do we do about the new business and? Right. Yeah, I was going to announce, I need to announce the next business meeting, which is September 28th, and that's going to start at 6:30. And please see the board's webpage, www.rcsdk12.org for additional information. And may I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Personnel
For the
matter.
purpose of discussing personnel matters related to specific individuals.
And collective negotiations,
And, I'm sorry?
collective negotiations.
And collective negotiations. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second? All right, this meeting will be concluded downstairs. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope I did all right. All right.
Excellent job.
Thank you, Mr. President. I take that coming from you. Thank you.
Whoever thought, you get endorsed by the city newspaper and run the damn board.
One just never